my program was just being really slow, and I was trying to switch it out before the meeting. But I've got the spots on here.
Yes, okay.
It was there and it was there.
Yes, and yes.
So they're in yellow.
In yellow. Right. What is, okay, proposed linkages, okay. So the red is just the big picture, what we'd like to have, kind of thing? This-
No, the red
Yeah,
is what we already have.
oh,
The orange, those were the
well, that's.
Nature reserves.
proposed linkages from the parks plan.
Yes, okay, so that is the mind jazz thing, okay, yes,
Yeah,
okay,
and
I thought it was red, it's actually orange, right?
And sorry, the colors aren't the best. You can never tell, like, on the screen they look one color, and then as soon as you put them, they're totally different.
Yeah. And,
yeah.
yeah, okay, there was that, there was something else I thought about too afterwards. Oh, God,
Yeah,
I
if you
lost
guys
it.
want to add to it, I don't mind.
Yeah, let me think of it, there was another.
Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting to order since we have 6 now. So item number 1 is
Thanks, Carl, thank you.
Jeremy, yeah, you called the meeting to order,
Oh,
you're
sorry.
interrupting the chair.
I wasn't thinking, I was off my homework.
so is there any introduction of late items?
We have one late item.
I have a little bit more news about place names. First Nations place names that we talked about last time, so somewhere in the agenda that you want me to share that.
You were talking about 6.2, is that?
I can do that in there if you'd like. Yep. I can do it all in there. That'd be fine.
Okay.
6.2, Councillor Manala's bus update.
Okay. All right, anything else? Okay, can I have someone move the approval of the agenda? Bill, seconded by DG, all in favor? Any opposed?
Can I just confirm something? Am I a voting member? I'm not a voting member.
You are voting.
I am a voting member?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm not. Oh,
Yeah.
I knew somebody wasn't.
I'm not.
And I'm not.
Um,
Kidding.
Does anyone have any comments about the minutes from last meeting? Need a couple of minutes to look them over. Happy. Can I have a mover to adopt the minutes from the last meeting? Jeremy. Seconder?
Oh,
Oh, hold on. Swellen?
hold on. In page 5 of 2, the business arrival from the minutes made Cummings Fund. Water trail loop trail construction wasn't on that list. We talked about it, but it wasn't something that we were going to consider.
Which one?
Here, this.
Yeah.
The first bullet was something we weren't going to pass on to the Maggie Cummings Fund.
Evan.
Okay.
Howdy, neighbor.
Anything else from the minutes? So Jeremy moved to have a seconder for adoption of the minutes. Ben? All in favor? Any opposed? Pass unanimously.
As amended.
As amended. Right, sorry. There are no public comments. There's no public. So action items. I think most of it's pretty much covered in the agenda. We're going to talk about the pit toilets. Charlie, did you get a map? Is that what you were?
Yeah. So Jeremy had marked some trails down on a map for Sarah, and he gave that to her. So I took that and made a new layer for our purposes. So it's just a couple of extra lines, and then I put that with the trails and the proposed linkages from the parks plan. And as well, I have a pedestrian network, proposed pedestrian network that was Emma's doing from the transportation plan.
Oh, cool.
And so that's all on one map here, but I just couldn't get ArcMap to work with me to print it for everyone to have a copy, but if you guys wanna have a look, the new stuff is in yellow here that we just put in. And if you, I mean, if there were other private trails that, I mean, I know that some of the proposed linkages already exist. A lot of them don't, a lot of them are just like, you know, lines that people put on at maps and workshops, but if there are ones that do exist that you think should be added to here, I'm happy to add them, so. if you-
Is that online? Or no, okay,
It will not be.
no.
No.
So,
But we could get a copy of it.
But they are kind of, I mean, proposed linkages was in the parks plan,
Right.
and the pedestrian network is in the transportation plan, so both of those are, accessible. And, yeah, and I'll print this out for everyone,
Okay.
and I will, send it around to planning as well, as
Okay.
that was the other thing that I was supposed to do, I just, like I said, I couldn't really get it to.
Fair enough.
if you
They
print,
print
bring
properly.
copies to the next meeting.
Let's bring copies, yeah, for sure. You can put that as an action item.
Sweet, thanks.
And I think I'm the next one too. So the multi-use pathway. I asked Emma about it the day after our last meeting, so of course I can't remember everything now. But she's got a lot of funding in place. It's really expensive. So I think right now she's looking at, for 2019, 260,000 is about what she's got. I don't know if all of that has been approved.
Right.
We haven't approved the budget yet,
No, this is,
funding from grants and stuff.
yeah, that's what she's got coming in. So, I think phase one is about, it's going to be completed. Phase two, I think, is the corner, the Charlie's Lane
Charlie's
corner.
Lane corner.
Yeah.
And then phase three is along Grafton, and a lot of that will just be completed because of the development there. So that's kind of where we're at.
Cool. Awesome. Number 4, so update on the Headwaters blog study, Claudia?
Yes,
That's-
item, isn't it?
It is an item, yeah.
Definitely, cool. And, yeah, and we emailed Carla about the comments regarding the species risk amendments. Did you have any
Or not.
comments on it? Or no? No?
Well, we don't have any parents, we don't have any endangered species biologists in the group who wanted to comment specifically about an amendment.
Yeah.
About peregrine falcons or something. So, some members of the public might comment, but unless you got something specific to say.
Now, did I hear, I did hear that there was possible sighting of peregrine falcon that's being ongoing.
There are confirmed sightings, yeah.
Which is that?
Sightings, but she's saying a nest.
Oh, of a nest?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
And, because that might be something to follow up on. I don't know. I know it's past March 19th, but
That's when the deadline for comments was actually pretty bit later.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know if there's anything really that specific to Bowen, but.
No, it's about the status, like they're changing
Yeah,
the status.
status,
Like
so,
they-
yeah.
Yeah, they're, it's not about
Downgrading.
occurrences or,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like if you thought that the peregrine falcon should not be downgraded to threatened because you had special information that the scientists
Right.
didn't have, and
Right.
you could send that in. That's what it was, I looked at it.
Yeah.
But I think peregrine sightings and any peregrine nest ledges, I would be really interested
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
having worked with them in the past, and I think the Conservancy or the Nature Club, you know, those.
Well, in fact, the municipality should know about them
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
they do require certain restrictions of noise, construction, development, anything within a, I can't remember the buffer
Yeah.
of those nests. But same with great
Great Blue
Heron,
Herons, yeah.
eagle nests, and
Yeah.
all of those, they do have special federal legislation.
So if anybody hears about peregrine falcon nest, I'm really interested, please let me know.
Awesome.
Right.
And
I
I worked with them in
put
Edmonds.
you in touch with the source of where, but it's secondhand, so I'm not going to have that.
We'll talk in the parking lot.
Yeah.
That's a part
I
of
think
it.
they call that hearsay or something, right? You know, but they can see.
Okay, awesome. So business arising from the minutes. 5.1, the 2019 work plan. Carla.
Oh, well, I don't know if I have much to say about this plan. I just took what you guys had done, I think with Sarah, or what Sarah had done. I'm not sure if you guys had any kind of a workshop about it, or.
I think this even started with Bonnie before she left,
Mm.
because it was part of the early budgeting and things. So I think it's really for us to make sure this is what we want to do this year, and
Yeah.
there's a draft motion.
So I added some things, I took a few things off that I didn't think were necessarily appropriate. I have no copy of, let's make sure, but.
So is everyone happy with the work plan?
I guess I'd raise a question. I think I forwarded the idea of getting the Killarney Lake Trail linkage in the work plan, but I just wonder about the timing for that. I know it's not currently in BIT's 2019 work plan, just because of budget considerations and other priorities that we're currently working on. So it might be helpful to discuss timing around that. I know BITS is very interested in that linkage and would be very happy to participate.
Sure. I'm sorry, Phil, are you finished? I'm sorry.
Pretty much. The other thing I wanted to add was I know Bob Cowan, I think is the guy who's the mountain bike guy.
Dangerous Dan?
Oh, not Dan Cowan. Yeah, sorry. He has expressed a great deal of interest in being involved in the routing for that trail as well, just because he knows that area really well and wants to avoid the conflict with mountain biking in that area. So I just recommend that we include him in that consideration as well.
But that won't be until 2020.
We can help with that
Yeah.
on BITS side of things if necessary.
Or maybe just some preliminary planning
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
work plan in
Yeah.
2019.
Can I kind of jump in there?
Sure.
Just because I already applied to the, the province. Before I went on leave, so like a year and a half ago, basically, and I think they're gonna tell me by next week if we can go ahead with that trail.
Okay.
And it's already been mapped out, and I've already met with Metro Vancouver, got the okay with them, and we have $10,000 to do it.
Okay.
So I don't know how much of a project it is,
great. That's
is
fine.
all. And when, at the time, like Alicia walked the trail with us, so, I don't mind involving Dan as well, but I don't know if it's necessarily like that, it's like 2020 and,
Right.
going,
Could be 20.
I'm hoping to just
You
get
can
it
just go
built
ahead and
like
do it
next
this-
month.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to hold it up, and
Yeah.
so I just say, great, go ahead, let's go ahead, and if you need help from us, let us know,
Okay,
and we'll definitely.
that would be really awesome.
So,
Well, partly, I was just going to say, I did mention that trail because it was on the list of the things to talk with the Maggie Cumming Legacy Fund. So I'll talk about that when I get there. But this work plan is for our committee, right? It's not the same as your work plan.
Right.
Okay, so that's why, I was just wondering why wouldn't we put it on here? Then we could say that we got it done, but it's not us that's doing it, it's you that's doing it through staff, so. Okay.
Yeah, it was just started a long time ago, so it got
Yeah.
lost with the province, our application. It should have been done like a
Yeah.
year and a half ago, really. Or
Great.
A year ago.
Okay, thank you.
DG.
Yeah, I just a typo, I think, in terms of permanent pit toilet location identification. It says fall 2018, and this being a 2019 work plan.
Okay, I can fix that
We
now.
should
Carla, if
just,
you want.
we probably don't want to do it in the fall. That should be, what, spring 2019?
What is it under? Beaches or?
Infrastructure allocation.
Infrastructure allocation, yeah.
Okay. So 20, oh,
19?
Well,
no, it's gonna be done the spring of 2019,
Spring.
right?
Spring 2019, yeah, we're working
Yeah,
on it now.
yeah, spring.
Good catch.
We should
Probably
just
say,
put
you
the-
probably say March 2019,
Yeah.
right now.
Right now,
Now.
anything's get
Well,
done.
well, let's just
Put it
take it
in
off.
and then we'll tick it off, yeah. Mhm. Mhm. That's good.
We've only got one amendment so far.
Okay, I guess I do have, an amendment, suggestion. So under the Headwaters bog restoration work, for the actual, restoration work summer 2019, it has, what's the title of it? Well, the groups involved, partnerships. I'm wondering where these, like why these are suggested. My concern is a couple of them are very good partners for this kind of a job, but I see like BICS and IPS, and it's just not the site to have many people in there. It's the ground is way too sensitive. It's wet. It's it's the best places are covered with sphagnum moss, and just any trampling is quite devastating to those communities. And I would say the weed warriors too. There aren't weeds in there, so. There's so many places on Bowen where there are weeds that it could be helped by that group, but, so the Nature Club, yeah, they might be, brought on to help with the work and the Conservancy, but I would maybe take out those others.
Works for me.
I recognize that, that it's great to include kids in some of these projects, but that's not the one.
Right, that's fair enough.
On the same sort of, pardon me, there they are, I missed them, that the kids are involved in proposed to be involved in the Catesville Neighbourhood Park, so. yeah. Just a different order.
Can I ask what Metrovan means in the Catesville neighborhood?
That means that, so the grant that I got for the neighborhood project is from BC Hydro and Tree Canada, and I got it before for September Morn when BC Hydro was doing the work there, so they're just kind of said, keep asking, we'll keep giving it to you, but it only pays for plants. So what we ended up doing with the September Morn project is we got soil from Metrovan. They offer us free soil, we just have to truck it. It's their biosolids, and so it's really good quality, and
It's biosolids.
and so when we did a planting at September Morn with, I invited the kids from outside Portage.
Nice.
So they came, and then I had some representatives from Metrovan. They came and they explained about how biosolids work to the kids, and it was a really cool learning thing for them. So they were, and they really like hearing about our projects and stuff, and they would like giving us this stuff for free. So I think they're really good partners for that.
Everybody knows what biosolids is.
Everyone except the committee clerk.
Composted.
Aren't you glad you asked?
Carry on, don't let me slow you down.
Did the kids just go right hands in after hearing the talk about it?
Yeah, they did.
Good.
Good for them. Good for them.
They either weren't paying attention or they were paying really good attention.
So something that's gonna come up later in this meeting, I wanna talk about setting up a invasive species subcommittee. I don't know if that would, I mean, that's down the road, and I don't know if we need to add that to the work plan. If we choose to do that.
Yeah.
So is that something that we could add at a later time, but council would have to approve it? Council has to approve this work plan?
Council doesn't approve this, council receives it
Okay,
for information.
okay, so we can, okay, fine. Then we'll just-
Yeah, if you wanna just put it on there, maybe we could put it in the
Greenways?
Greenways.
Greenways is so lonely.
Yeah. Well, why don't we hold off, because I wanna see what everyone thinks first. I don't wanna-
Oh, yeah.
I don't wanna, go too far.
Well, this is sort of a, excuse me,
Yeah, go ahead.
this is kind of a, we create something so council has an idea what we're doing, and we give it to them, and then we just continue on, kind of referring to it. Isn't that correct?
So
I
should
think
we,
that's what we were doing, we would just put on the information items every month, and then when some things are completed, we'll complete maybe.
It was in the back of the, it was always in the agenda, so we would refer to it, yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you.
A question about, and this is a broad question, maybe not so much related to the work plan, but does it fall under the purview of this committee to talk about playground equipment? Is that part of the parks?
if it's one of our playgrounds, yeah.
Okay, well,
It's actually here, this is right,
Is
the
it-
playscapes,
yeah,
yeah.
well, I just
Under
saw
infrastructure.
Skatesville Neighborhood Park, and I know that there's been some talk, or there had been talk about putting a play structure in there. And as a father of young children, and knowing that there are very few play structures on this island, I would certainly be interested in having that be part of something we discuss here.
Right.
Assessing the appetite of it.
It's here, it says,
I think,
considering Catesville Neighborhood Park, Veterans Park, and future
Okay,
neighborhood
yeah, I
parks.
see it now, yeah, right, great, okay.
Some of them aren't even on, we have one, the one that we do have is not on
Is that
the,
the school, yeah.
it's not on a park. It's to become a park.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then there's the one near King Edward Bay.
That's the one I mean.
Oh, that's,
Yeah,
yeah.
it just, it's been designated, it hasn't been dedicated as park yet, that's all.
Okay.
And there's a
Yeah,
swing
we were
set at
involved
Buchanan
in
Park.
like,
And there's a swing set, yeah.
Sorry, a swing set where?
There's a swing set in Buchanan Park.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That one out there is
Nobody
looking
nobody
good,
knows
so
about
I
that one.
don't know if you've seen it.
We need to figure
I saw the
something
big
out.
structure when I went by.
Yeah, no, it's looking
Yep.
pretty good.
Okay, awesome.
Is it
Thank you.
getting used?
I imagine so, maybe next meeting is not,
Yeah.
I see some kids on it. bringing
Yeah,
it.
good.
So are we happy with the work plan? Okay.
Say as amended, then?
As in, can I have a mover that the Parks and Greenways Advisory Committee recommend that council receive its 2019 work plan as amended at its March 19th, 2019 meeting?
Sure.
So,
I'll second that.
TG. Any more discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Passed unanimously.
File name is changing it to file.
Toilet location.
Oh.
Sweet. Carla,
Can I start?
please do.
From biosolids.
Yeah. So I emailed Bob just to make sure that we have a toilet and that we are able to choose a location for it. And he just wanted to clear some stuff up. And I think there's just the one toilet we have for now. It's missing a couple pieces at this point because it ended up getting used for repairs for other ones, so it's not gonna happen super fast. But he would like it to be at Pebbly Beach rather than using the porta potty, or in the ferry lineup. So that little across from the school where the picnic tables.
Yeah.
He said that, you know, until he gets some of the park stuff, he doesn't really want to do any more far away, like in Veterans or something like that, just because it's like, takes a lot more resources and, you know, someone to go out there and clean it all the time. And if they're that far away too, you end up with a lot more potential for dumping and for vandalism and that kind of stuff, which we've already had a bit of an issue with at Tunstall, so that's kind of just where he's at right now, so.
Carla, I thought, and this is something you might want to check, but I'm pretty sure that either this group, but I'm pretty sure that council already approved putting the toilet on the ferry lineup.
As the
Okay.
EDC staff liaison, that came out of the EDC budget, and it was, came out of the work that the EDC has did with the businesses in the Cove. It was a direct result of that.
Yeah, so I think it's
Okay.
already been approved by council to put it up by the, by the ferry lineup. And,
Okay.
in time, I thought, for the summer. And, also, I'm pretty sure that council decided that it should be a portable one at Pebble Beach. So you can check for council resolutions.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I just asked about, because
yeah,
I wanted to know if we actually physically have.
yeah, it's a good point.
Okay.
And is this another one of those, prefab ones like at Cape Roger Curtis?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
They're pretty,
I like that one.
they're pretty good, I think.
I think having one at the ferry lineup is kind of a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, it's not even really a Parks, Trails and Greenways thing, except there is a pathway that goes through there.
So
But I think it's kind of like, look at council resolutions.
Yeah, they already made a decision.
Who would do that? Carla, is that something you do? Staff would do?
Well, yeah, I guess I should probably get back to Bob. Or maybe Bob should.
I thought there was something that it's the budget, the parks budget for a new toilet, wasn't there? That was something that's come through this committee?
I thought we had a
Budget item.
budget item for a new toilet, and it sounds like, and it was gonna be a permanent toilet,
Yeah.
Yes.
and that, it sounds like, though, that we may have another location to consider if there's already going to be one from the Economic Development Committee.
That one's done, it was done last summer, it was bought through that budget last summer, and it was put there, and it was very popular.
But
No,
that was the
You're
portable.
talking about a
You're
portable
talking
one.
portable.
So, they want to put a,
Yeah, we're talking about a
Right.
permanent hit
Oh,
toilet.
okay.
But that actually does bring up a good point, because
So is-
information's wrong on the EDC did not pay for that. We
Okay.
did the portable one, sorry.
Okay, so that hasn't been paid for.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you paid, maybe EDC paid for the first,
For the portable,
the
right.
temporary one to see what the uptake was, so to speak. The pilot year.
Go there.
Let's call it the pilot year. But I think in Bonnie's absence, there's gonna be a few gaps like these. And it seems to me like there's one thing to know whether we have the toilets or whether they were ordered, whether we've got them to install. And the second thing is which budget is it coming out of? Because what I don't want is Parks, Trails and Greenways budget to go towards ferry
Cove,
lineup
yeah.
and
Don't have a budget.
Cove thing.
The committee doesn't have a budget. The Parks
No, no,
Department
no.
doesn't have a budget.
But Parks does.
Because strictly speaking, putting the outhouse in the ferry lineup, that's not a park, trail, or greenway.
Right,
So
yeah, that's a good point.
that should
We-
come out of the
yeah.
parks budget.
Parks maintains that area.
Parks maintain.
Maintains it, yeah, but it's
Well,
It's not in
like
our
consider,
remit.
because I think because the parks and environment, like, we also take care of Snow Cove. Snow Cove is just under our, you know.
in public space.
Yeah, and so we clean up garbage along the sidewalk, we do the library gardens and all of that, so.
Yeah.
So maybe it is our,
We kind of, I don't know who else's budget would come out of it,
Would it not come out of public works
but to have it.
to have a toilet in the cove? I mean, I don't know. It's just that, yeah,
But it makes sense, I mean, when you're getting them pumped out and stuff, and
Yes.
you're going to do cleaning, you're just gonna do them all at the same time, right?
so.
I think it's a matter of the capital cost or the installation, the purchase of the toilet and the installation, setting it up. After that, it's operations, it's gonna be public works. But I think what would be helpful is to know if there's things that are budgeted for under parks, trails, and greenways for recreation and hiking and human use of green spaces around the island and beaches. That's different. And what I sometimes worry about is that funding that council, through adopting a budget, intends to be used for something, in
Gets
usual
priorities.
stuff, it sort of gets put some,
Yeah.
some, like money that might be set aside for trails. It's hard to say how much exact money you spend on trail brushing or whatever, you know? So, but I think when it comes to something like this, I think it's helpful to know what has council already directed staff to do, and what has council, what's in the draft budget. Is that toilet specified to be for the ferry lineup or for parks, trails, greenways, recreational use beaches, you know? And so I think we kind of need to know that before we would make a strong recommendation. Meanwhile, at this meeting, what we could do is talk about where in parks, trails, and beaches would a public toilet be of benefit. That would be my suggestion.
Yes, I don't, and I don't want to speak for everyone else, but I don't think I feel comfortable recommending the pit toilet coming from the parks budget, parks and environment budget being used in the ferry budget. That's my thought. I don't know how, so I agree with that as well. Maybe we should come up with alternative, where we would like it to go. Claudia.
However, maybe that discussion is best had when we actually know we have a budget for a toilet that we can decide the location in a park or on a trail or greenway. So that might, maybe next month we'll have to revisit that after Carla's has looked into whether we have that money for our own toilet.
All we can do though is recommend, right?
So what we need to find, what we need to know is,
Yeah.
does the parks and environment have the money for a pit toilet in the parks system?
Okay, so I'm gonna look into it and see what budget that toilet came out of, but can we also consider what Bob said? And so if it is for a park, trail, greenway, like, would we be comfortable with just saying Pebbly Beach, or do you want to talk about it more? Sorry, I think you got your hand.
That's fine. We had discussed the Pebbly Beach issue when it was much more contentious, what was it, last year? Even the idea of putting in a portable one, but a more permanent fixture in terms of obvious things, particularly in relation to Bob's comments, it's kind of self-evident, I would think. There isn't anything else that's near that has the need, right? And we certainly discussed that part of it. Maybe there are other places further afield, but Bob doesn't think that's the thing to deal with now.
Pebbly Beach, I think we've gone over this. We really do think that it's needed there. I'm just wondering if we put the permanent toilet there, can we move the portable somewhere else? Because otherwise, right now, the portable is there and it is serving the needs.
The portable is not there right now.
It's
Oh,
only
not
in the
It gets
summer.
removed,
just
it's
summer.
just a summer thing.
See, that's part of what council was thinking about, was where are the seasonal needs for toilet?
Right.
Because a pit toilet is pretty expensive,
Yeah.
and you want to put it somewhere where it's going to be used year round. So that's why we put the new one a couple of years ago at Cape Roger Curtis,
Yeah.
because it's a trailhead near a used public beach, but it's used year round.
Sure.
People
Yeah.
walk there, so that's the kind of place.
So do we
might be
think
thinking.
Pebbly is more a summer location? So maybe the permanent pit toilet shouldn't go there and it should be portable toilet? And is there somewhere that's more used year-round that we could consider?
I'll get to you, Jeremy. My thought is, I think Pebbly is better served with a seasonal toilet. I don't see a lot of use in the winter. My thought is, and I know Bob says It's harder to maintain when it's far away, but Headwaters Park and Quarry Park, that area gets used all year long. There's no facility in that area. That would be my choice, just because it does get used all year long. And like I said, I hear what Bob is saying about it being far away, but you're going out to Cape Roger Curtis anyway. We've already got that journey.
And emergent areas, Grafton Lake, people are already walking around that. That will become the new Killarney Lake. And if the community is going to assume responsibility for those areas, I mean, maybe it could be put on the south side of the road where the gardens are, or whether it's on the north side, I don't know, that needs to be resolved, but certainly as a target, plus it's kind of closer to the cove in terms of Bob's arguments. But I would certainly agree that Quarry Park's used, I mean, for skating, just recently.
Well, I was about to say, like, I was there whenever it was frozen, and there was like 8 or 10 kids skating on the lake, and they're all going into the woods, and so.
We can buy us all woods.
I like the idea of the Quarry Park, Headwaters Park, because there are two trailheads right across from each other. So people could use a washroom, whether they're going out, down towards Ferry Fen, right? Because there's a long trail now that goes all the way down to Ferry Fen, and theoretically on to Cape Roger Curtis as well, to those trails. And on the Headwaters side, it's one of the few level trail loops. So people who are recovering from mobility issues, or who are pushing a stroller, or who are, for whatever reason, they need to walk on level ground, health stuff, they walk on Headwaters and Metro Vancouver, you know, from the Catholic Church out. Those are the two flat ones. And so I really like your idea. Yeah.
I think it could serve veterans too, really. I mean, you know, when you don't have toilets all over the place, like at least it's pretty close.
Yeah, you can drive there.
In an emergency,
You
you
could-
get there pretty quick.
Or on your way in.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Be proactive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's a good idea.
yeah, and just a word about, because neither of them really have room for that now, but Quarry Park entrance has more room, like if you're driving into the parking lot of the Quarry Park side, where the two are across from each other, not the one on the hill. On the left-hand side, the uphill side, there's more room in the park. And years ago, we thought, well, if this ever becomes a major trailhead, you know, for so if you're, let me just show a map. No, this one doesn't have any roads on it. Oh, there we go. Okay, so in here, is that right? Oh, this is land use bylaw, okay. Well, anyway, okay, so how about this way? I'm driving to, yeah, there's no maps in here. I'm driving to, along Sunset, and I'm heading down towards the golf course. I'm gonna turn right to go into the Quarry Park parking lot. So as I turn right, on my left-hand side, on the uphill side, there's lots of room that's in the
Still
park.
within the park.
Still.
It's still within
okay.
the park. So it
So
could
you'd have to
be,
clear it there.
yeah,
Yeah.
you'd have to clear it. It
Okay.
might be on a highly, like an upper bench.
But it wouldn't take
Wouldn't
away
want
parking
stairs.
space,
It
which
wouldn't.
is really limited.
Yeah,
And it might actually be an opportunity to create a bit more parking.
or, yeah, that's what we thought, and yes, that's what we thought in the parks, because right now, there's only that little bit of parking for both parks, right?
Yeah.
For Headwaters and Quarry Park. And so if more parking was created, which it's already tight there, right, when you go, it would be natural to put a toilet there too.
Right, so you could clear some space that comes in from the road, and then maybe at the far side, put the pit toilet that maybe has a little bit of parking.
Yeah.
And that also would create good access for cleaning and maintenance and stuff like
Is
that.
there not outcropping there though?
There is further, like you get to the part where there's a
Yeah, right
a
at the end
bulletin
of the
board,
parking.
there's
is
the
outcrop.
bulletin board there, the
Mhm.
kiosk, and then you get into areas where the land starts to rise. There might still be
Yeah, I
room
thought
though,
there.
you know, because it's quite a big road.
Oh,
Anyway, I don't think it's outcropping up on the left.
okay.
I think it's softer stuff. Anyway, that would fit with what was envisioned way long a time ago when Quarry Park was established, and the thinking at the time was, well, let's just put in this little parking lot for now, and maybe we can expand in the future. That's an idea. Good idea.
And another point, and I'll get to you, Claudia. For me, Headwaters and Quarry, I kind of think of them as the same park, because when you walk, when you usually walk, I mean, it's the biggest park we have, and I think it's important. Claudia?
I was just going to suggest that we put a motion on the table to recommend to council that if there is money in the budget for a pit toilet, that we recommend that it be placed at Quarry Park parking lot to service both Quarry and Headwaters Park. Yeah.
Sweet.
We could go for a walkabout and have a look at it too, if we wanted to.
To determine the exact.
I think maybe next
Let's-
Bob has to go and look at the site and see if it's possible to put one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to move, like, with that recommendation. I think we all know what we're talking about.
Should we add something to the effect of assuming that the toilet facilities at Pebbly Beach be a seasonal portable toilet?
Yes.
Whereas.
Like maybe a whereas, you know,
Yeah.
right?
Whereas Pebbly Beach continues to
Seasonal
offer a
use.
seasonal
Location.
portable toilet, be it that,
The permanent
yeah,
pit
If
toilet
they're
be
placed
placed at Quarry Park, in the Quarry Park parking lot.
But the committee recommend that a permanent pit toilet be installed. Did we say something about what if the money exists or not exists?
no, I guess we
No,
don't,
I
we're
don't
just
think we need to.
recommending that
Yeah.
it happen.
Yeah.
Whereas Pebbly Beach offers a seasonal use location. Is seasonal use location. Or be resolved that a permanent pit toilet be installed in Quarry Park to service both Quarry Park and Headwaters. Bob?
Did you say something? Permanent pit toilet be installed at Quarry Park. Yeah.
To
To
service.
service Quarry Park and Headwaters
Year round.
year round, yeah.
And then that'll
Right,
be
now we're
clear.
rocking.
Yeah.
Do we need to include language that maybe it should be as part of a plan to expand the parking lot, or just let that?
I think we could,
I think
if we
that would
want
be
to,
a-
we could say,
Fine.
especially if parking is to be expanded or something.
Well, maybe we should be recommending that parking be expanded there, because it is, like that skating, you know, when people were skating, that it was just jam-packed, and, you know, it forces people to maybe park on the road, which is not safe in that location.
Maybe a second recommendation saying that we recommend that the
The
parking
option
lot.
of increasing parking?
Right.
The explored.
So I want to say like whereas the
Yes.
limited parking in Quarry Park causes safety concern?
Or is inadequate
To
at
use.
some times of,
Yeah.
at some points in the year, or,
that
You
it's-
had a safety concern.
Presumably, they could look on the other side of the road too, and on the north side.
Yeah, I can't remember how skinny that
Can't
is over
remember
there.
how it is,
Yeah.
just the bush is dense.
what have you got, Steph?
Whereas parking at Quarry Park is inadequate for demand
Mm-hmm.
and a
At sometimes of the
threat to
year.
public safety.
At sometimes of the year, she said.
Doesn't have to go. Yeah, be it recommended that, the option of expanding the parking lot be explored.
That the Parks, Trails and Greenways Committee recommend that the option of.
I guess.
The feasibility instead of
Mhm.
option.
What we don't want, I guess where we're getting at here is we don't want the permanent pit toilets to take the place of some of the existing parking.
Yeah.
True,
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, that and there's gonna be a machine there, so you might as well just
Yeah.
Take
flatten out a
advantage.
couple spots while you're
Well,
at it.
Yeah, that's the efficiency side of it, but if you're gonna do it,
Oh,
yeah.
But all, yeah.
But DG's right, we should have a little phrase
Oh, like
in
an extra
there
something
that,
for that?
Well, just to be really clear, I think, because that would
Oh,
be
and then
you can make
the
this
simplest thing to
outside
do.
of the
would be
footprint
to
of
go
the
in
existing,
and,
we
you
could
know,
say that
that
it
would be the quickest place to put a
We could say-
permanent
would
toilet.
say outside of the
Plunk it down.
footprint of the
Right.
existing parking lot.
Yeah.
There's kind of a self-evidence in that, though, when you're saying that the parking is limited, that you
Yeah.
wouldn't
Well,
put
that-
it, wouldn't
You
put
know,
it.
these are two
zero
different
percent
resolutions,
feet
right?
for-
We're missing the same one.
Should we link these two
What?
together?
Maybe it makes sense if they're together now that they're so.
Yeah, they're intertwined, aren't they?
Yes.
Whereas it is seasonal living. And, okay, so whereas Little Beach is a seasonal use location, and whereas limited parking on Quarry Park, blah, blah, blah. You're not saying anything about safety. Therefore be resolved that the committee recommend a toilet be installed to service both Quarry Park and Headwaters Bog. And,
Headwaters Park.
okay. And that the feasibility of expanding the parking lot be explored.
Mhm.
The only thing that isn't in there is the safety issue.
Yeah,
Where, we could just put in a whereas sometimes people park on the road.
And
The
this
side
is
of
a
the road.
safety issue or something like that.
well, say, is inadequate for the demand and,
May create
May
safety issues,
concern.
safety concerns
Concerns,
if cars are parked on the roadway.
okay.
Sounds good.
Way, therefore be resolved that a permanent pit toilet, no, that the committee recommends that a pit toilet be installed in Quarry Park to service both Quarry Park and Headwaters Park year-round, and that the feasibility of expanding the parking area at Quarry Park be explored.
Sure.
Okay,
Or we could say Quarry Park or Headwaters Park. Be explored. I don't actually know what's like.
That's a good point, actually. Let's not pigeonhole them
Or
into
a-
Quarry.
Or,
I think
you know,
that Headwaters is kind of, the, if, you don't, you can probably look on that map, but I think it's quite skinny at the front,
Mm.
and then it goes out. Where the sign is for Headwaters, that big sign there is actually not on our property at all,
No.
which is super weird, but.
Oh, I remember all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I
Okay.
wanted to put one of those wells there. And
Oh.
so we put a counter in the well, and someone's like, no, that's not our property. It's like, why do we have a sign on it?
Oh,
But
because we repurposed the old California estate sign, that's why.
Oh, that's why, yeah.
It was creative reuse.
I'm just thinking, is there a spot by the kiosk in Headwaters? Once you go in and it opens up?
Potentially, yeah.
Is it pretty, so,
Just a little
You have to
ways away.
drive in further though, then.
Well, for parking or for pit toilet?
For a pit
What do you-
toilet,
You mean
not-
pit
yeah.
toilet, yeah.
not parking.
It gets less use than Quarry Park.
Yeah, it'd
People
be
would,
nice
I
to,
mean, you'd have to have really good signage at Quarry Park
Yeah.
saying that
Yeah,
toilets over there.
across the road, I think it's Quarry Park. I
Yeah.
think it-
Yeah.
but it
Okay.
used to be.
And before we go, I found the toilet resolutions that council had passed, if people want to hear them. Okay, so in December of 2017, there was a resolution that temporary toilet facilities be installed at Pebbly Beach until September 2017. When was that? Oh, no, that was, sorry, July. And then the next one was Snug Cove Improvements Working Group had a motion. And then, and that was the one about, I can't tell whether these passed or not, it's fine. Okay, anyway, and then, so the next one said, that the recommendation from the Snug Cove Improvements Working Group regarding the installation of 2 portable toilets from June to September inclusive being referred to staff for comment and a report back to the May regular council meeting, including cost estimates for 1 and 2. That was,
Was that their May 15th?
yeah, okay.
That
18, yeah, that's Snug Cove Improvements. So that was, it doesn't say where, it's funny. Anyway, and then the top one is that council authorized staff to install a portable toilet at the upper ferry marshalling area between June and September 30th at a cost of approximately, whatever, to be funded by reallocating fund of the Economic Development Committee.
So not.
So it's just for the
Yeah.
portable,
Yeah, because it's just,
and is that just referring to last summer, like it wasn't necessarily for an ongoing thing?
it just said,
Hopefully ongoing.
yeah,
Are there more funds to allocate, like, in that same
I
fund
haven't
pool?
asked for any.
I don't know, it's not this committee,
Hmm.
so we don't know, staff might know, but.
We didn't ask for any, but I thought it would be shifted over to Public Works
Good question.
with all the other toilets. I think it was, because
Because-
this happened quite suddenly.
Sounds like
Right
an
before the
action
summer,
item.
the food industries were upset because the tour buses were just dropping 30 people off to line up, for example, on the ready. And so it was a quick reaction,
Right.
not ongoing, but would still have the same
So it'd be
concern
interesting
that-
to know if it's in the budget. And I don't have the detail of the budget with me here to look at that.
Was the Pebble Beach one from our budget?
That would be.
I would think it would have been.
Yeah.
I thought it
Yeah,
was, maybe
that
we
was-
recommended it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was,
I think that was in
was a ways
the
back.
parks plan and stuff, and,
Mhm.
yeah.
But that's a seasonal one.
No, I'm sorry, Pebble Beach, I mean, meaning
Oh,
Roger
Pebble
Curtis.
Beach,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Right.
right.
Pebble, call
Yeah.
it
Somebody
sink or
should
sea.
rename that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever, yeah.
That was total park budget.
Yeah. So,
So who should follow up on that to find out if,
Well, I'll definitely have a conversation with Bob.
Well, Bob,
Why don't-
Bob,
why-
I don't think.
The budget is
I'm gonna,
difficult
how
right now
about this,
because
I volunteered to ask about toilets in the budget,
Right.
because I'm supposed to know where everything's coming from, that's part of my goal.
Mhm.
So, if you put that down as an action item?
Oh, I can definitely ask someone where the one that was bought, what budget that came from.
That would be good.
That's easy.
Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
portable one along the ferry lineup, which I guess isn't our purview.
It's not
We
our
knew
business.
that came from the E EDC.
I think what it comes down to is,
Yeah.
we're here for parks and trails and greenways.
Yeah.
And we've been asked for a pit toilet location, that's what we're recommending, because unless there's people who disagree, I don't think the ferry mission area is our purview. So if we have money for a pit
No.
toilet, then that's where we think it should go, and if we don't have the money for the pit toilet, then.
Can I just bring up one thing? If it means like, I think that the idea about putting it heavily was that it was getting really expensive to put a portable one in there. Because they have to come get it pumped out every week and, I don't know, maybe the prices.
Cost
have
of
gone up
approximately
or whatever.
$3,750.
No, that's from across the street from Vic's.
Yeah, yeah,
She's talking about
She's also
Pebbly.
Pebbly Beach.
Heavily.
Pebbly's-
Portable.
Cape Roger Curtis.
No,
Heavily
Pebbly Beach.
Deep Bay.
Putting the portable there, so I'm just, if it comes down to it, like, are we prepared to give that up? To
Well,
put a permanent one in somewhere else, like, because
But didn't,
I don't know if that's.
sorry, wasn't there direction from council though that it be a seasonal
I think
Yeah.
just for
toilet
all the time, every season.
in,
Every season.
at Pebbly?
All right,
It just,
I thought that was, I thought that was.
Well, it says that temporary toilet facilities will be installed at Pebbly Beach until September 5, 2017.
Oh.
So that was just because we were trying to, two things were happening at the time. Sandy Beach was becoming cleaner, and we had the new pit toilet over at Sandy Beach. So we were trying not to duplicate facilities that were there in Deep Bay, Mannion Bay, and at swimming beaches. And also, there were issues with the neighbors who were concerned about the smell, and which they did solve the next season, as I recall. Or was it the same
wasn't an
season?
issue that season.
Yeah.
I got a lot of.
You were
flack.
there, yeah. Okay,
And
you know
it was
more.
fine.
Okay, and I thought there was also an issue about how tight the space was down there, and that the little
Yeah.
toilet, they could set up a screen behind the.
Well, it was unsightly, and a lot of the neighbors didn't like that it was unsightly, but then they put
Because-
terracing.
Because Eddie threw it down directly in front of the beach when he brought it down there. And it was like, and so I had to get him to come back and move it. I said, this is our property, like, anyway.
Okay,
So it was,
That's
it
below
was a
high
rough,
tide line.
it was a rough start, yeah.
a rough start, fair enough. And, but I think the other question is about how much space is there down there? Remember, we talked about if an ambulance had to come down, because the permanent toilet takes up a little bit more room, and it's so tight down there. What do you think?
So I think there's enough space to put a toilet in. There's basically, there's the road, there's that driveway there, there's the stream, and that's a whole other issue.
Yeah.
But then there's that grassy area. And I believe that there's plenty of space in that grassy area to be able to dig a hole. I, however, have had concerns about how close to the stream it is, and I think the idea that came from Public Works was more about, they wanted to, I don't even want to say this right now, but they wanted to build a hard wall. and build up against it, right? And I was like, well, I don't think that's a good idea, but.
Carla, do you have a, excuse me,
Go ahead.
Carla, is the seasonal pit toilet sufficient? And
And
I know it needs a lot of servicing, but just during the hot summer months when people are on the beach all day.
Not a pit toilet, but a portable.
Portable.
The seasonal.
Portable. Okay.
And it comes back to my point is Pebbly Beach.
Pebbly Beach on
Um,
Senator Road at Deep Bay.
Yes. I mean, yeah, there's just not a lot of use in the winter. It's, a pit toilet is just gonna sit there unused. The stream is I'm glad you brought it up. I mean, that's, yeah, it's a ripe area there. It's right there. And it's not, what do we call them now? Community beaches. Class A beaches,
Right.
right?
Community beach is not a
So
community beach.
as beaches are, the descriptions of beaches say that community beaches have facilities, pit toilets. And Pebbly Beach is not a community beach, it's a neighborhood beach. So, I mean, in the future, maybe the public, it warrants, if it gets the usage, it changes to a community beach. But the use is just not there to classify it as a community beach.
Go ahead, DG.
DG.
In terms of the space required to put in a permanent toilet, pit toilet there, I think you're, when I try to envision it, that pushing out by creating some infill and a rock wall to make space for the pit toilet is very much counter to where the municipality should be going in terms of providing a good example for how we treat our shoreline. So, that in itself, because I just can't see where it would go other than doing what you had mentioned. So I think the seasonal one is really all we have space for down there. And I really wouldn't want to see the municipality do something infrastructure-wise that we're, I think, trying to
Get away from.
move away from.
Hardscaping. Well, there's a culvert underneath. You can't dig down. I mean, the stream goes, that grassy area's got
Yeah.
a culvert
Yeah.
underneath, so.
Anyway, there's the also,
Well,
would we
maybe
put
no better.
2 pit toilets both on the same bay and leave the rest of the island? You know, there's something about putting your infrastructure or your visitor facilities around the island to both distribute the usage and to make it fair for the other neighborhoods and stuff like that, I think. But anyway.
I think we're pretty clear on this.
I think,
I do
Let's
have,
move on.
people generally agreed. Yes, quiet people,
Yeah.
seething inside.
Let's vote on the
okay,
motions.
do we need the motion read again?
Whereas Pebbly Beach is a seasonal use location, and whereas limited parking at Quarry Park is inadequate for the demand at some times of the year and may create safety concerns if cars are parked on the roadways, therefore be resolved that the committee recommend that a permanent pit toilet be installed in Quarry Park to service both Quarry Park and Headwaters Park year-round, and that the feasibility of expanding the parking area at Quarry Park be explored.
Hang on, can I have someone move that, please? Jeremy. Can I have a seconder? Claudia was, I'm sorry.
Oh, let's feel happy.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much.
I don't think she would know
No.
the hard stuff.
Okay, toilet discussion is now done.
We always like, the toilets come up and like, it's like, oh. we're
Well, you
making
know,
it.
we don't have a lot of big budget items, and that's one of them. So I think there's a couple of action items. Carla's gonna see what budget the existing pit toilet came out of, and I'm going to put, my action item is to look for toilets in the proposed budget.
People notice them, though. That's something
Oh,
they're
yeah.
very aware of that. When it's,
I think that meeting was the most members of the board we've ever had.
The toilet meeting, right?
oh, I've heard people, oh wow, they put a toilet here. Yeah. Don't have to go in the woods anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
I also like
moved on.
I also like the idea of sort of doing beach one year, and trailheads another year, that kind of thing. So,
Okay, my turn.
Yeah, moving along.
So, 5.3, sorry. Mark?
No, Carrie,
Well, I want an introduction.
I'm sorry. And Claudia is going to talk about the Headwaters box.
And I'm not going to say much. In fact, I would like to put it on next month's agenda because it's been delayed, and I sent an email to Carla, and I'll talk to Sue Ellen directly, but it's will be further ahead in April, so it would be better to discuss it in more detail then.
Fair enough.
And I guess that does affect the work plan because it does say March 2019 for the review, so it doesn't have, I don't, it could be changed.
Well, it really comes down to how does that affect the Maggie County part of the fund, so
Yes.
you guys can.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
and there is an update that Sue Ellen's
Yeah.
bringing us about that, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
okay.
well, thank you. 5.4, Miller's Landing.
Yeah. So we brought this up a little bit at the last meeting, and we had a map in our package, this one. So it was in last month's package, and Miller's Landing Beach Access Map. It was page 11 of 52. So feel free to have a look at that. Just before this meeting, I looked at the agenda and went, oh, I looked at my old agenda, because we hadn't counted any action items, but I had written down emails about Miller's Landing Beach Access. So I've sent those to you folks. And they were sent to council back in November when we were a brand new council. And And then, we didn't, very good. And, which one is the Ecclestone beach access? Does
It comes off the E of Newark.
Can you just point?
Go straight down to the water.
While you're waiting.
So this is Ecclestone,
Yeah,
and then this is Ecclestone. But this,
Okay.
this is where it kind of turns into like looks kind of like a driveway, but it's
Right.
actually, and then, so this continuous strip is Ecclestone.
right, so that must be the beach access down there.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So you'll see photos of some of these in the email that I sent. And you might have them too, but it's okay. Have a look at the email. And, because basically it's, and Carla, maybe you know about this, but I think it was all happening while you were away. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I got a lot of updates from staff and,
Yeah.
just if you want the update is basically it's been resolved.
Oh.
According to staff.
So we can put a
So-
public beach access sign and that kind of thing?
No, not necessarily. It's resolved according to staff, as in they're not gonna do anything else about it, because, they just don't see that it's possible to have a public beach access there. So, yes, I think the neighbors have said, sure, go ahead and cross my property to get onto the beach. But, you know, that's not, I can't,
Okay.
without having some sort of agreement with them, like,
Right.
I can't say, like, tell the public to go across their property.
There's liability issues and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
So I don't mind, that's what kind of why I wanted to do the walkabout, is because
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing for myself, I wouldn't mind if everyone else saw it.
Well,
But
this-
the
yeah.
staff that saw it said, it's not possible.
But this is why.
Because of the terrain?
Yes.
Yes.
And so I thought it would be good to go on a walkabout. Last meeting, didn't make sense because it was all snowy and icy. Right. And so I thought if we wanted to schedule a walkabout, some of the locals will be happy to meet us and walk around with us and show us things. And I thought, this is in the tradition of Bowen Island Parks and Rec Commission going back 20 years, opening beach accesses to the public and making sure that every neighborhood had one, two, three, that were open, and that were safe and that kind of thing. And so I think a walkabout would be a good idea.
I totally think so.
Okay, so maybe we want to think about when is good for people to come on walkabouts. The last couple of years, we've had them sort of Friday afternoons at around 3 or 4, because then people can, you can come, yeah. Does that work for people? Okay, I'm seeing noddings. And what about, well, Friday the 29th, or?
March break.
Is that still March break? Okay, yeah. The meeting after that is the 5th. I'm away, but you guys could meet. I don't mind being away, because I've done lots of this, and I'm away the 5th and the 12th, and then I'm back. So my schedule is not good.
19th is.
19th is after our next meeting, but it's fine with me too.
Oh,
not-
no, that's Good Friday.
That's the long weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The long weekend.
Yeah.
I'm not good at it.
How about September?
26th. I'm all booked up. No.
Well, maybe Fridays aren't the best, but they have worked best for this group.
Is this a crazy thought? Now that it's getting later in the evening, what about meeting at 6 at Miller's Landing and before our meeting?
Before, on the 16th.
And then coming here?
I think if there are going to be locals there, I think this walkabout could turn into a longer walkabout than normal.
True.
Also, there's a bunch of them, and there will be some driving around.
What
The
about-
26th?
What about April 26th?
I'm away.
Oh, you're away.
I'm away too, but that's okay.
Oh, you're away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
me
chair
too.
with you. This is why.
Is there another
There you
day
go.
other than Fridays
Well, yeah, I'm thinking,
for doing 6 o'clock?
well, you
No.
guys could do
We
the
can do.
22nd or the 29th.
Are you talking about March or April?
Well, I'm in March still because I'm going, well, the 22nd is the end of this week. The 29th is the end of, you know what, I could do the 29th.
That's still March break.
Oh, yeah, right,
So
right,
we're
right.
looking at the first, so if you want to do the 6 o'clock on April 2nd,
I can't make that. What? On the
That's a
6th?
Tuesday, but it's not
Fine.
before our meeting.
So why don't you set up a doodle poll?
Doodle.
Doodle poll?
Doodle poll.
Mhm.
Because
We
I
should
don't
probably
know
look
how.
at tides as well, just to see what
Oh,
the tide is. So you can
yeah.
get access.
Yeah.
That's-
Good call.
This is
Yeah.
usually a Virginia thing to do.
I can
Okay.
do the tide.
Phil,
Could you do the
can
dice?
you do the
If you
doodle?
give me a set of dates, I'll
Yeah,
tell you.
yeah. Well,
Well, just look at April.
how about the Thursday before Good Friday, the 18th?
long weekend,
No,
just the
just-
evening before a long weekend.
No,
Was-
it's a,
Phil, are you looking up the tide right now? Yes, good
So
idea.
we get a monthly.
Yeah.
a lot of people would leave on the Thursday, including, yeah, I won't be available.
Because to be down there at the highest tide is
No,
not
you wanna
ideal.
be at the low
You
tide,
wanna
or at
be at
least
low
at
If you
the
can even
medium
get to
tide.
the water,
Yeah.
we might not be even getting to the water,
Yeah.
but we,
I think,
maybe
I
some
think
of the
they,
access.
the community members wanted a high tide so they could show you how to get down to wherever, but I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, the high
I
tide,
would-
like the most
Yeah,
obstruction.
I just don't see the point.
No,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
although you can't, you wanna be able to, I mean,
Get
from
on
the
the
photos,
beach.
from the photos, we can see what's happening.
Yeah,
So, but you wanna get on the beach and see
Yeah.
the beach.
because we're gonna look at a number of beach access points.
So how many access points were you hoping to get to on a walkabout?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe, Carla, do you know which ones we would want to go to?
All of it? Super
All of
fun.
them? Yeah, I think.
So that's the Ecclestone one.
So what
2
dates are we
hours
thinking?
maybe,
What's that?
maybe we block 2 hours.
What week
Yeah.
are we thinking?
That would be really,
Pardon?
What week are we thinking?
So maybe the
about
first
me?
week of April, is the second week of April? Were you guys thinking that? So the April 9th to 12th? Does that work?
I'm away, but everybody else is here.
How long are you away for?
I'm away for just over a week, the 9th to the 17th.
is there any problem
What about
with
the-
May? Is for you, Carla, to pushing it like May,
No, there's no rush on this. I mean, it could.
May 3rd or 10th? Someone
mean,
was away.
except
maybe.
I'm away the first 2 weeks of May,
Oh, okay.
What about the second?
and the last 2 weeks of April.
What about Wednesday the 17th of April? At 6 o'clock?
What
You
about-
feel it?
What about
Yeah.
Tuesday,
You're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Julie's good?
Well, I arrive back, I don't know what time I actually arrive on Bowen Island on the 17th, yeah. Could do the 18th.
when are you, in May?
No, that's in April.
Oh, good, yeah, okay.
But I am away for a week in May.
So it's high
too.
tide at 4 o'clock on the 16th.
It would be
So
hard
it's
to,
not ideal.
Yeah, that's not ideal, no.
That week's probably not great in the afternoon.
how about the 9th? That's a Tuesday.
Of April?
Yeah.
She's away.
Yeah, I'm away.
Oh, you're
but,
away.
I mean, just because I'm away, if everybody else can make it. What's the tide on the 9th?
Oh, that's Vinnie Ridge Day.
I was just going to say that. Oh, that's Phoebe Ridge Day, come on.
I'm
Let's
gonna
see,
be
on the
booked up
9th.
that day.
Sorry?
On the 9th, we've got low tide in the afternoon, quite
Yeah.
good, it's 1.1, so it's very
Okay.
low.
And that's the day you're back?
No, I'm leaving that day,
Oh,
so.
you-
3 o'clock low, so that's pretty good.
That's good, that's okay.
So
You
the
guys can
9th is a
take good
Tuesday?
pictures or whatever.
So would people be able to come on a Tuesday at, what would people like?
It's tricky for me, but don't let me hold
Like 3 to 5?
I'd like to go.
Yeah.
I can do 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm seeing some
But
nods.
Phil
I
can.
might be able to, I mean,
Maybe.
he's coming home.
Meet
early.
can.
3 to 5, and we can send the location, secret location, yeah, we can send the location later, because I can contact the folks, the neighborhood folks who are concerned, and set something up with them.
Yeah, I can't do that, the coastal connection is on that day.
Oh.
Well, I feel like we're floundering with the date, so maybe we should do a doodle poll, and maybe,
Yeah.
if you don't know how to do a doodle
I
poll.
do.
Okay,
Okay.
But maybe
would you
pick,
mind, because
Set
then
it
you
up.
know, you know when the tides are
yeah,
good, so
pick
you
some
can,
good tide
you can
dates.
throw us, like between 3
See what happens when you notice them?
Thank you very much, because I'm realizing that the other person, Virginia, has done tons of beach stuff, and I would want to know her dates
Yeah.
too, so
Yeah.
that would be good.
Maybe, look at some good tight dates in April and May. I mean, there's
Yeah.
not a huge, I mean, even if we have to push it, back to towards the
Yeah,
end
it'll
of
be
May.
every other week, so then if the week of the 9th is good, it'll probably be 2 weeks later, it'll be good again. So.
Okay.
Okay.
So Phil, you're gonna have to do the.
I'll be on to that, I'll put a doodle poll together.
Awesome.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Hopefully it'll
I
work.
know, I could figure it out too,
It's
but
pretty easy.
Yeah.
yeah.
I just want to remind you too that I had access to something that you wrote that was in Bonnie's office at one point that had a description of all of these accesses.
The beach inventory that we did,
Okay.
yeah,
Years
yeah,
ago.
this committee.
Bring
would-
that.
Yeah, oh,
Okay.
okay,
Yeah, because I don't have it anymore. It was just like a handwritten thing, and
Oh.
I don't actually.
okay.
I
So
should have
does it
scanned
actually
it at
list?
the time.
This is, no, we've got it in,
Yeah.
it's in one of our agendas. So, this is Sue Ellen to send beach access inventory to Carla.
Yeah, great. I was gonna say, when I was a summer student, I went looking for these beaches to see if we needed to do some maintenance
Yeah.
on them, and I couldn't find any of them. So,
Oh,
you know,
I know where they are.
that took me like
We did
maybe
it.
20 minutes of driving around.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe it won't take us 2 hours to do it.
Well,
Yeah.
no,
But if we're gonna start
it's
scrambling.
good. And I went on the one in 2002 and on the one that we did more recently, I think 2015, with Virginia. And so we updated
on these,
and all of them, all around the island, and partly in preparation for the parks plan.
Mhm.
And so to Carla, I will send them.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, awesome. So this is the final point. I just want to remind everyone that the email that Sue Ellen sent around, like that's not for public consumption. So, yeah.
When the emails go to mayor and council, they get an automatic reply that says this is gonna be on the public agenda, but I think this just went to you and David, right? I don't know that it would be necessarily,
Yeah.
assume it's a public.
Good point, I don't know. I don't think it should be considered a public one because it names names and talks
Yeah.
about neighbors and things that we don't.
There's members of the public in there, so
Yeah.
it's not.
And they're the names of the people. So just hang on to those emails.
Yeah.
And
It seems pretty amicable at this point.
yeah, yeah. But still,
Mhm.
it's kind of grumpy about staff, which I don't like either, to spread that around because it's just some opinions. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. 6.1, staff update, Carla.
Okay, I think I've already updated you guys on this stuff a little bit. So the connector trail, I'm waiting to hear back. It was on the work plan, so that maybe we would talk about what you guys thought about how to do bridges, because I didn't really have an awesome plan for that. There's 2 ephemeral creeks along that trail. And
Which trail?
Sorry.
Mount
Gardner
Gardner
Connector.
It says Mount Gardner Connector Trail.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a trail already when you talk about it.
No, it's not a trail.
It's a route.
already. It's a route, but the route was done by, sorry, I kind of thought everyone was already aware a lot about this, and I just went right into it, but. So, the Mount Gardner Connector Trail there was $10,000 put aside for it, like 10 years ago, through some development that John Reed did, apparently.
I think that money is called the Hikers Trail money, but you might want to check because I'm pretty sure that the Bowen Island Conservancy is supposed to be talked to about how to spend that money. If it's the same money. We can talk later.
Okay.
You thought it was easy.
Okay, so, I started a process of like trying to get everybody together, so I talked to BITS and the province and Metro Vancouver and said this would be a really great multi-stakeholder kind of thing for us to all do together, because it's half on Metro land and it's half on the province's land, and we wanted to organize it because we had the money, right? And so we thought BITS is already kind of doing stuff on the Mount Gardner trails, so I put the application in before I left, so November 2017, and then when I got back I said, so did we build the trail? And nobody knew anything about it, and so my replacement had since left, so it took me a long time to track it down because they also lost my application at the province of Frank County, BC.
Okay.
So I did finally get a hold of someone, and they looked at it right away, they said, and they're supposed to be getting back to me this week about it.
Cool.
And I also have spoken to Scott Moore, and he's gonna take a walk with me and give me an estimate of what it might cost. And I think that's where we'll see if it's less than around $10,000, we'll see if we need more funding.
Should be less than that.
What's that?
It should be less than that.
I think so.
Because it's not that long a trail.
It's about a kilometer.
But
More.
it should be.
But it's also like, it's not super steep or anything, like there's, like, you know, a couple kind of like rolling hills.
Yeah.
It's quite open, we won't have to cut down any trees.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically just moving some ferns out of the way. Put the fern there, put the fern there. It's a really cool, like, ecosystem in there. It's very, like, giant maple trees and really big sword ferns everywhere. You know, that kind of open feeling that, anyways.
Yeah, no, it's nice.
It's a really nice spot. So hopefully that can just get done really simply. And that's the update on that. So I guess I'll let you know how those two things go at some point, and then see if there's any more work to get done. And maybe on a further future agenda, we can talk about the bridges. I had suggested in my application that we just do, if we could find big logs, that we just do like textured logs, because they're just small ephemeral creeks, and I think, but I don't know if it means. That's where I was maybe looking for help, so.
So, actually, something Christine is gonna ask would be horses.
Can
Yeah,
horses not
they-
go on logs?
Are they, well,
Like
they'll
the
need
textured
to be
ones, is that
certain,
like
yeah, certain
appropriate?
width and,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
design
Horses
for
would probably
horses.
go around.
Do they ever go up the skid trail?
If they ever go up there.
I don't think I've ever seen horses goes up there.
I'm just,
Well-
because I know she'd bring it up, so.
Yeah,
The-
for
the-
sure.
For sure.
DG.
It seems to me that we spent some time, this was quite a while ago, talking about bridges, designs, and some, this was, I think, a couple of councils ago. Does anybody else remember this, right? And we never, our recommendations weren't accepted. So it was, but I think we have spent some time talking about the sort of design criteria, so we could go back to the minutes somewhere. I mean, we're talking probably, how many years ago?
5. I don't know, but.
I don't know, a long time. But there, I think there's some, there is something that we did come up with. So it would be worth, rather than reinventing the wheel for the bridges.
Phil?
I was just gonna add that the province has pretty good guidelines for building bridges for recreational trails.
Yeah.
And so if you need help with that, we can help provide the resource for where you can find the information, and even if
Yeah.
necessary, help design it, because in the Bowen Trails Coalition, we built 2 bridges in the last year, and they're designed to the provincial spec at least,
Yeah.
or to provincial standard for multi-use. Now, it depends on the category of use. But the things that you have to take into consideration, things like how big is the river, the creek that's going underneath, so that you're not gonna have susceptibility to wash out erosion around the abutments, and making sure that it's wide enough and safe enough and all those kind of things. So I'm happy to help with that.
The other things to consider are, even if they're ephemeral streams, they're still water courses, and riparian areas regulation may still apply. So might need to check into that. And also, if you're building a new trail, kilometer in length, then you might be considering having someone do an environmental assessment that there's no at-risk species on the route that you're planning to use.
Okay.
Those are kind of like best guidelines that this advisory committee has recommended that the municipality does use best practices, because we expect no less from developers, so.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, there could be a red-legged frog in that area, I would imagine.
It's actually,
Go ahead, Sue.
it's actually a main crossing area for frogs and salamanders, because it's right at that, if I'm right, it's at the part between Hikers Trail and the picnic area, Killarney Lake picnic area. Is that where it is?
Yeah.
That's especially the lowest part there,
Yeah,
near
this
the
is
picnic
up-
area.
Up behind the picnic area, so, like, here's where the old bike park, picnic area
Yeah.
now, so it kind of starts at the back of that, and then just goes up, and kind of is a bit more
Right.
straight along
Well,
to Hikers Trail.
okay,
The top
'cause-
of the parking at Hikers Trail? The very top.
Yep, okay, and because the part of the road from the Killarney Lake picnic area, further from the cove, just that real low stretch before it starts going up the slope, is like the main frog and salamander crossing for Killarney Lake. And it has, if you go there, I used to have a music group that we played with, Sarah Allen's, and so we would be driving there at night, late, and you get after 11 o'clock, and it's just little lights that are their eyes all across the road. So it means that they're all coming down off those slopes, and
Yeah.
so there probably are red-legged frogs and northwestern salamanders and all those things coming down.
Going down and going back up, because they
And then-
spend most of their
Yeah.
life actually in the forest.
Yeah. So I don't know that it's exactly that a pedestrian-oriented trail with little rustic bridges would damage
No.
red-legged frog habitat,
Yeah.
though. But I can tell you right now, they live there because they come out of those forests and across the road. And
So an assessment should happen, because that is a SARA listed species. At least to, have a look and say, no, it's fine,
yeah,
it won't affect them. Or is there culvert needed? Is there, there's different strategies for surface materials so that they're not inhibited from crossing, and box culverts and there's.
except, are we anticipating any more infrastructure, or is it gonna be the parking lot at Killarney Lake will be the jumping on point?
There
Or,
won't be any, it's the parking lot at Clardy Lakes.
okay,
I was hoping to not bring in any gravel or anything, like, I want to just kind of move some ferns. Kind of delineate
and if I can
Make
continue
a path.
about the bridges, in the, sometimes we've put in horse-friendly bridges, where, for example, in Quarry Park, because there were a bunch of horses that lived in the area, and people did ride through there regularly, and so those bridges are built to carry a horse's weight, and they're actually not, we actually asked for, because they ended up being skinnier, so people have to get off their horses and lead them, which is also a bit weird for the horses. But the plan was, and the same in Crippen Park, where there's horses, they build the big Skuce one. But we have also put in boardwalks, like the one at Headwaters Park, and lots of the rustic, I don't know about municipal trails, what have we built recently, but they're not all to horse standards, especially if it's crown land and the horses could go around. So if there's alternate routes. I don't think everything has to be up to horse standards.
Oh,
It's a
no,
good question. Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I know.
Christine would say,
Yeah.
yes, that's good. Channeling your inner Christine.
Okay, I think we're probably low on time. The other thing that I was gonna just give you an update on, and I mean, this is stuff we later, but Kate's Hill Neighbourhood Park, you were just asking me about it, so I think I already kind of explained, it was just that we got a grant for plants. The grant money has to be spent on plants, and we thought Kate's Hill Neighborhood Park would be a good spot because there was not so much the park part, but like the parking lot part where it's just a big, yes,
Dirt pile?
yeah, a lot of invasive species in there. That's the plan. So far, all I've done is talk to Ian, kind of get his ideas on it a little bit and get some plant lists. Ian is our parks operator, Ian Brown. And
What kind of plants are you thinking?
Claudia.
Is it
just
native?
yeah,
native
just all
plants?
native species. Nothing that needs any sort of maintenance. We just want like a wild kind of garden. We want to get rid of the invasives. Just do like a rehabilitation.
I don't mind volunteering to look at the plant list. Not this minute.
No, I'll leave them with you. I can make more copies of those, but
Okay. Yeah,
But I just,
yeah, if it's
I
not
just
nursery,
requested.
they should be all.
yeah.
good. Just sometimes some nurseries, it's what they say is native, it's not really
It's true.
Yeah. I think Max is, yeah, we've got a good reputation.
native.
But that was one of the things I was gonna ask for comments on species and what people might think would work up there and that kind of thing. But that's like a later thing.
Yeah, there is a Kate's Hill Neighborhood Association, who I think it would be a really good idea to engage with them.
Oh,
Of course.
Yeah,
yeah.
right, so yeah, talk with them, I'm on the board, we only meet a year or so, but they, they're gonna be doing that,
Cutting of the wild
cutting of the
clematis,
wild
yeah,
clematis, yeah.
yeah.
So I
Oh,
think that,
good for them.
yeah, getting started
Work
on that,
party.
so I think they would, it would be a good idea.
Yeah.
To chat with them.
And it sounds like, if you're just in that sort of dirt parking lot area, I'm just thinking about the parks plan has, is proposing that in the future to consider a sports court up there. And so it would be a shame to plant where later you might be using it for a different purpose. So I don't know how to.
What's a sports court?
Well, it's an undefined, like it could be a basketball, tennis court, like some kind of sports facility up there.
I think it's supposed to be like a surface thing where you can play several different sports, like you can change out the nets and
Yes,
stuff. Like,
yeah, that was the idea, but yeah, they didn't put anything firm, but they said that was a candidate that's close to the cove. There's only one tennis court on one.
So it's the size of a tennis court, kind
I think it's
It's pretty amorphous.
it's unspecified in the parks plan, but just to consider that when
Something
you're
to keep in-
planting.
Yeah.
So do the planting at the, closer to the labyrinth, I guess, maybe. Would that make
Well,
more sense?
you have to put it where the mess is, right?
yeah, kind of. I think what we want to do so that there's like a flat, like there's the field, right? So the field will just stay as is, and then there's a big slope that's just it's too. We want to we're gonna bring a machine in. We're gonna even out that slope a little bit. I think that was all filled.
It's eroding, yeah.
Yeah, and so we'll just make that a bit more gentle, plant all along the slope.
Oh, okay.
And then most of where the parking is, I think I just want to leave it because it's at this point really compacted and nothing else is growing out of there. So like, why bother? Disturbing. So hopefully leave most of that, and then there's like a big pile up on the upslope towards Tiernan. We'll have to figure out exactly where we are, but we can plant there, and then kind of a big area between the parking and the labyrinth.
I should
There's a lot of
give you-
tansy in there as well.
Yeah.
That you kind of want to.
Yeah,
Maybe.
and thistle and stuff.
Mm.
I should give you that native planting with native species guide that, you weren't here, but
Grow Me Green or?
No,
there's
no, it's a
Measure
different
Man
one.
And there's another, okay. Sure.
I worked on it and, it has a lot of, like different scenarios, what to plant together and for bird habitat and
Great.
berries and things like that. For
Sure.
I'm
Yeah,
still
I'm all
waiting.
over it.
You said it was okay, not.
You brought a copy, but there's no digital link, right? Is that what happened
Oh,
with that?
there is now.
Did
Okay.
we have it? Do you want me to do something?
Yeah,
with
can
it?
you,
Did you send it?
action item me?
It was really difficult to try and figure out plant species to plant at September-Morn because it's just what are the deer not gonna eat? I don't know. I don't know. I know they don't eat lavender. I don't, like, that's it, you know?
So,
There are some things.
Yeah.
so,
So,
ocean spray,
Yeah.
snow bag,
The-
grows everywhere, works
Yeah.
everywhere.
Well, I got some silver.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure they eat that too.
Of course they do.
Yeah, it's like
Or at
everything
least-
everything is baby
Nebraska.
plants.
Right,
Like-
chew it and chew it and
Yeah.
then spit it out. Oh, I don't like
Yeah,
this.
I
You could try another one. Oh, I still like it still. That's
Still
what-
like it.
They ate my neighbor's plastic tulips.
Yeah,
Plastic tulips.
Put them out as a gag and they.
Well, the other thing is if you know, you say ocean spray, but if you buy a nice, healthy, young plug from a nursery and it has, it's had great fertilizer in the soil, it's taken it up into the foliage, all of a sudden that is very tasty to them. And it's only when a lot of those shrubs get up above their height that they are deer proof. But I can talk to you more about that another time.
Okay, let's move on.
Sorry,
Oh.
I got one more thing to update you on, and I will just take one more moment of your
Give her,
time.
no, give her.
I am going to get the parks plan printed.
Yay!
Awesome.
So I think it got pushed onto the next council agenda, and I thought, this is kind of silly, so I just asked her, and yeah, we're getting it printed.
Good,
Awesome.
Excellent.
good.
That's great.
That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, 6.2.
Okay, this is, we added this at the beginning, was what we were gonna do was, Council and Islands Trust liaison, right?
6.2, 6.1.
No,
We just did 6.1.
This was it.
That was the staff update. This is 6.2, Council on Islands.
We added it at the
Oh,
start.
sorry, I'm on the 7th.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you gave me ahead of yourself.
So far ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna keep this really quick. We talked about First Nations place names last time, and I've been doing some workshops and things like that, so I just want to pass along some info that might be helpful. We looked at this public spaces naming policy, so you can tell me, Carla, when I'm done here, whether I should write something down and pass it on to you, or what I should do. But First Nations place names are not just like we European types would just have a map in front of us, right? We'd be looking down from a bird's eye view at a map, and we would say, okay, this chunk of land, and we would put the name in the middle of like an island, like Bowen. So Bowen apparently has several different First Nations names because First Nations people used to approach from the sea. So like seafarers, they would give this bay a name or that point a name, so it's not like there is one Bowen Island name. Also, different nations. We're in the territory of 3 nations, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam. They all have different languages, and they all slightly different languages, and they all could have different names for places. So anyway, I just want to say naming and recognition is a big deal. It's based on protocol, so it's not something that, like this committee, should just recommend to council and then council should impose that this should be the First Nations name for this bay or something that we might do in English. So we don't just rust in, It also from the First Nations perspective, has implications for rights and title. So it's not simple, as you might have mentioned, and there can be various names. Okay, so and they can be collective rights, not just individual rights that could be involved in the rights and title, like among several nations or anyway. So and then the business about some people say, why is there a 7, right, in the language, and how can we use that in a name for a beach or a trail? Well, that's their language, and that's how First Nations have gone through a long process to decide how they wanted their language to be depicted, portrayed, and it's linguistics stuff. And if anybody's interested, the 7 is a glottal stop. Like when you say uh-oh, there's a little stop in there. And 2019 is the year of First Nations language. So some of these things, that's just a little brief thing, but I just wanted to pass that along, and that it's not simple. And we should probably consult several members of council and staff. Shauna and Kathy Lalonde went to Squamish First Nation, had a invitational get-together at Joe Matthias' house, and talked about reconciliation and how to work better with First Nations and local governments and that kind of stuff. So there's more happening there. So should I just send some notes to Shauna, or what do you recommend?
Shauna gave me a bit of an update as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send her an email. Put down an email, and then I'll send it, because is she the main one drafting this? First Nations naming policy?
Well, that's the public spaces naming policy,
It's not First
which I
Nations
added
naming
the
policy.
First Nation
stuff to.
Okay,
So,
good. I will, I'll send her a note. Okay. All right, thank you. That one's about that. And then I wanted to say, to the next meeting, I'll bring some things like the Bowen part of the Regional Conservation Plan, and some new information, anyway, information from the Islands Trust that has to do with ecologies and ecosystems and things that I think this committee would be interested in. And also some other maps, like old growth management areas, of which I didn't know, but apparently we have a bunch on Bowen, which means there's no cut for logging. But Jeremy looked at them earlier, and they look like the locations might be a bit different, yes. Anyway.
Are you able to send that around to us?
I'm going to bring them to the next meeting in a little package, I think. So we've got them together, and
are they on Map It?
no, not yet.
Do you
So
want me to scan them or something so we can have them?
I will, I'll talk to you about it later. How about that? Okay. What's that? Old growth areas? These ones are the ones that are designated through the forestry division. So they're actually a kind of reserve that are not allowed to be logged.
Really?
Yeah. So I just found out about this yesterday. That's why I haven't circulated anything, or I don't have enough information. I'm just letting you know that I'm trying to bring things from the Islands Trust and the Islands Trust Conservancy that I think would be useful to this committee. So I'll be doing more of that. I met with Kathy Lalonde and David Podmore, the head of Bowen Island Community Foundation, and about the Maggie suggestions that I had written down from our last meeting, because there's like $10,000 a year for 3 years, maybe ongoing, that we could perhaps be spending, promoting, working with them on, cost sharing on. And so the ones I had written down was Quarry Park viewpoint opening. They might be a little different than the ones that are in the minutes, but anyway, the link to Grafton Lake, Cross Island Pathway, which I didn't know whether that was Trans Island Pathway, multi-use pathway, but that's what it said in the minutes. So anyway, wetland at Old Whitney Lane, Headwaters Park Restoration Phase 2, and where they said there was no rush on the bill as long as the work was being done So,
You see this?
I don't think it meant like no rush forever, but I was just trying to apologize. I was just trying to.
2020.
No, I just meant, they were wondering what was going on, so I filled them in. And then later, well, I also mentioned the idea of the trails from Quarry Park Viewpoint. Since that work is going to be happening, or has happened or something, Quarry Park Viewpoint,
Yeah, he's asking about, it's.
Any day.
Yeah.
and then that maybe we take another trail down from Quarry Park Viewpoint down towards the Ferry Fen trails, so it becomes more of a loop rather than a dead-end destination, and we can talk more about that. We have in previous meetings, but anyway, and the Killarney Lake up Mount Gardner past Hikers Trail connector. I mentioned that one too, because I knew it was something that we've discussed. So I'm going to, so they were quite interested actually in the Trans Island Pathway, multi-use pathway idea, because it also had other budget with it, and they could see spending, you know, that it was an actual plan, because it had budget coming along with it. And so we'll see what happens there. My next move is to contact Alan Whitehead and Bob Turner, the two other people besides me named in Maggie's will, as the people to consult and that kind of stuff. So this is just a report that I took those ideas forward. And also, because I've written down here, send the Hikers Trail dollars email about the John Reed funds to Carla. If there's any question about the $10,000, then there could be other. So,
Question.
because I think if the Hikers Trail funds that I think you might be thinking about, because you said they came from a John Reed development, I have a letter from Joanne Cunday, who was a treasurer here a long time ago, about how those funds, he made them over to, they were being held for the Bowen Island Conservancy.
Okay.
So anyway.
Let me know. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I want to let you know, the island plan has been printed, so this is the strategic plan for this year. I only got my copy today. I haven't been through it and put all my little stickies in, but this includes things like everything from climate to having a site modification bylaw. So you can't go in and clear your lot and then come to the municipality to get your rezoning or whatever. So it's sort of something that we'll work on over the next, I'll be working on that with the planning department. All kinds of stuff in here related to parks and things too.
This is also included in your information items.
Okay, so there's a link, there's a
yeah.
link in our agenda to that. Thank you, Steph. Okay, that's my report.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, that will be me. 7.1, Invasive Species Subcommittee. So, yeah, I would like to have a discussion and gauge interest in ideas from the committee about setting up an invasive species subcommittee. Just a discussion. I think I would probably want to talk with Kathy first before taking any action, just to hear her thoughts. Kathy's our CAO. I think a subcommittee would be very effective, just because I know, you know, everyone's time is precious, and we all don't have so much time. And a smaller group might be a little bit more focused. I don't know, maybe I'm off base on that one. And just a few little points. When I say invasive species, I'm a plant person, so that's what my focus is, but it would include animals, you know, Shaefer beetles, and, you know, skunks have become an issue on the island. So there's a whole host of things. I would see it as a committee that had two roles, one being education, things like planting native plants in good combinations and groupings, educating people on what invasives we have and what invasives we should be looking for. You know, there was a thing a while ago that fire ants are in the area. Maybe if we have information about what they are, people will recognize it sooner and be able to deal with it. Having something like an invasive talk series, something like the climate conversation series that Maureen Nicholson has.
Hey, Maureen Nicholson and Sue Ellen Fast.
And Sue Ellen Fast, yes.
She does the organizing, but I'm part of it too. Or have been. Now it's going to be David Hawking, actually.
Oh, that's what I meant to say, Maureen and David. But just engage the public and get a little more education out there. I would really like to see like a dedicated webpage on the community site for the public to go to. I mean, this is all big ideas. I'm just throwing it out there. But I would also like to see a more hands-on activities from a subcommittee, actually starting to deal with some of these species, like being a plant person, of course, at Callan Point, organizing volunteers. And I've talked to some people who would be into that, into volunteering. They just don't feel that they have anywhere to take their energy to. There's no outlet for that. So, and also helping to map things. Like if we could take members of the public and like map all of our trails and parks and find out all the invasives. I mean, I'm thinking big, but I think we need to think big. So, yeah, I would like your thoughts, Carla.
I was just gonna say that I've had a lot of calls from neighborhood people who have gotten their own neighborhoods together saying, we're gonna clean up our invasives, can you come pick up?
Awesome.
Like, so that's already something that's happening, and I think that adding some momentum to that is a good idea.
Perfect. So,
Is this like a you're thinking more of a volunteer team, sort of doing extracurricular stuff, like Weed Warriors?
yeah,
Okay, because within Metro Parks, they've got this Weed Warriors group, and that's basically Moira and Dee and a couple of people that help them once in a while. I just think, like any advisory committee, we have advisory stuff that we advise council about, but then there's usually a whole volunteer side. And I think you should bring it to the whole committee. We might all want to be part of it.
that would be awesome. That'd be great.
Anyway, that's just a thought, is maybe to start with the whole committee and then.
Right, PG.
Also just a thought that, I like the idea of having a focused effort on invasives because of, I really do think it is, part of our mandate in terms of parks, trails, and greenways, of dealing with that. And actually, I kind of like the idea of having a subcommittee, because if we can have, the people who could, if we have people to populate it, and that way that subcommittee could bring recommendations or that focus, that focus energy, to this greater committee, particularly around areas in terms of policies or practices that the municipality could do. And I see like the volunteer effort for like the Weed Warriors, not so much in our, the
right.
committees.
I'm just keen.
Yeah, purview, but it would be more policy and the ways that the municipality can support invasive species management.
Right.
So.
And I mean, certainly working with other groups, I think there's a great opportunity with BITS. I mean, you guys are all over the island.
Yeah.
If we can get the members of BITS out there with the map at the Report a Weed app.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, certainly, yeah. I'm not thinking like it would be like a standalone committee. We'd certainly be working with all the groups.
It would be a subcommittee of this committee, right? And as part of our overall committee structure, we do work with, all sorts of different groups and
Right,
stuff.
yeah. I mean, being affiliated with being part of the municipality, we're kind of focused where everything kind of comes together.
Yeah.
So.
I like the idea of the webpage too.
Nice. Are you volunteering?
Yeah, no. Sorry.
So, I mean,
Great idea, but I can't be on the subcommittee.
so I mean, we have a lot of members who are here tonight. So, but I'm just wondering, would anyone be interested in serving on the subcommittee, or do we think that it's just something we should just take on as a whole committee? Claudia?
I like the idea better of it being a subcommittee that someone would report back to the whole committee. Then just thinking, you know, it's a great issue to address, but, you know, we're hardly
Yeah.
can
No,
fit
you're right.
in what
Right.
we have, you know, in our meetings, so. I
And
think
that's part of it. I mean, it's a time thing. If we can get a subgroup that, I mean, certainly not acting apart from the committee, I would think there'd be updates, but they could get a lot of the work done, come to the committee as a whole and say, this is what we've done, maybe we need help, things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we want-
Steph just gave me a look.
I think you can do this without talking to Kathy, if you want to start your subcommittee and then work out the limitations with Kathy.
Okay.
in terms of reference sort of thing?
Yeah, but I think within your,
Yeah, we can.
then
Within
all
the
the
terms-
committees do a reference, you can strike a subcommittee,
Yes.
you can have people from outside the committee on it, you just need to bring your notes back to the committee.
Mhm.
Oh, 'cause so we can have people from outside our
Yeah.
committee on the subcommittee?
Yeah.
So you
That
can
part I
mention
did.
it.
That part I did.
She says that the transportation committee does that too.
Yeah, so I'm not conflating the two.
No, I'm pretty sure we put that in
That
that,
is true.
many of
I
them.
did see that we could strike our own subcommittee. I just thought it would be a good idea to.
Okay, thanks, sorry.
No, I think as long as you know.
If
we're
there's
in touch
something that
with
you
Carla.
think that you're gonna need to talk to Kathy about, please do, but I don't think it needs to hold you back if you guys want
Okay.
to sort of make a resolution regarding this now, because everyone seems kind of excited.
All right. So, I mean, like I said, there's people, it sounds like a subcommittee is something we would like to pursue. And I'd like to know if anyone would like to volunteer, but I also don't want to exclude the people who aren't here tonight.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll send around an email to everyone and include those people. And then maybe for next meeting, we can decide
Yeah.
on the members of the subcommittee.
Yeah, well, and I think also that maybe the general terms of reference of that subcommittee, okay, what is the,
Just what is the purpose and.
Yeah, no, for
Purpose
sure.
and-
I'll hammer some stuff out. and-
Yeah.
And,
That'd be good.
awesome.
okay, good. So there's
So
an
action item then for you?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, general terms of reference and purposes. Awesome.
And reach out to get with possible members.
Yes, I'm gonna reach out to the committee, for sure. So it is 9 o'clock. Do we have 3 minutes extra for my last item?
Yeah, especially because we've got a sea level rise workshop coming up on
Okay.
March the 30th.
It's and I'm not really expecting anything, so when Steph is done typing, so
Okay.
we've got a little video to.
Oh, right, that's me. Sorry.
No, I said finish that.
This is Islands Trust is sea change. Anyway, there's a group coming through the Islands Trust that's coming to give a workshop on March the 30th. If you know anybody who's interested in sea level rise, go ahead. I'm just
So-
filling in time.
Yeah, so this is September Moore Beach on December 20th, and we had that big southerly storm that came in, and this is not the high tide. The high tide was a week later. This was a 4.5. The high tide was actually a 5-meter tide.
Sorry, where's?
I don't know. You put it in the thing.
No, that I missed the.
Oh, it says September Moore Beach. So that's the stair
Oh.
at September Moore Beach.
Oh, that in the middle there?
Yeah, with
Oh,
the
my.
metal grating.
Yeah.
So there's 4 or 5, 6 stairs below that one. That's the top one.
Oh, there it goes.
And it's only a minute long. So
Yeah.
and it's actually quite impressive later on. So
There's
everyone
the
knows
stair
where
just
we are?
left.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So on the far right, that's the tread stairs, right?
right.
So. Oh right. So it's gone. But you could hear the logs snapping in the waves. It was just incredible.
Wow.
What was the date again?
December 20th.
That was when the gate broke on the front of the ferry.
Yeah, this was the day, and this is
What time was this, Mark? Was this 2 o'clock?
2:30.
2:30?
Yeah. So you can see how far everything's coming up.
Yeah, so,
I mean, and like I said, that's not even the high.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and I've kind of called this like replacing beach infrastructure in consideration of ocean level rise. And I'm not saying like, don't replace the stairs or anything like that, but in the future, we're gonna have to start considering like, the oceans are rising.
Yeah. Even when we're thinking about pit toilets for Pebbly Beach,
Right.
Exactly.
you know, and those kinds of things. So I'm happy to think that the Sandy Beach one is partway up the slope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well,
So,
Well, the sea levels are rising, but also importantly, storms like, you know, the,
Storms are getting more extreme.
yeah, we have those extreme storms.
mhm.
And you couple that with the high tide, and you really, there is one, I've seen one photograph, it wasn't on island here, but it's on Vancouver Island by a colleague, and basically, it mimicked basically 1 meter of sea level rise, because they, during that same storm, had so much storm surge after, with the high tide, and, you know, literally these houses are just really centimeters away
Yeah,
of
There's
just being
about-
underwater.
About 80 centimeters of storm surge in the strait during this storm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That storm,
Which
by
is
the way,
pretty big, I mean, you
Yeah.
it's
know,
huge, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the 200-year storm surge is up around a meter plus,
wow.
so it's getting up there. For,
Yeah.
Tons of damage all around Howe Sound. I was at the Ocean Watch Task Force that Bonnie sometimes comes to, but she's one of the main people in it when she's here. And everything from Lions Bay Marina, you saw what happened at Horseshoe Bay, right? That whole float went over. And our own public dock
Mhm.
broke, the piling at the end, so it's like a $50,000 bill or whatever it's going to be to fix it. And all up and down Howe Sound. So the last time the winds had come from that direction was 1984, according to the sailors.
Mm. It's southeasterly, which is kind of the prevailing winter storm direction to this area, really, so it should be fairly frequent.
I think it was further up the sound, and the direction for
More easterly.
the people who have boats up further.
Yeah, but
Anyway, it was unusual
yeah,
for
those
them.
southeasterlies do happen.
Yeah.
Because there was one like this, I'm trying to think what the year was, 2000 and, not that long ago, like 2008 or, not 8 or 9, I think, when we were based in Seattle, and there was a really big one that ripped the side out of Bainbridge Island,
Mhm.
and it was again a southeast, very strong, intense southeasterly
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
And that was about that was only about a 16-year return interval, which is actually not very much, but it was, you know, the winds were about the same equivalent, about 50, gusting to 50 knots
Yeah.
peak.
Wow.
So,
It's impressive.
Anyway, I wanted to also say something, but I just forgot what it was, so never mind. Oh, I know, it was about docks. There were several people's big floats got broken up. They happened to be big concrete docks too, that I know of on Bowen at least. Big ones got cracked. It was loose styrofoam inside. All the loose styrofoam went all around onto neighbors' beaches right around the island. So some people had bags and bags and bags, like 7 truckloads full of other people's styrofoam that they had to
concrete
take
and
away.
styrofoam, yeah, I've seen
And,
that too,
yeah,
a couple of these.
And there's just more and more styrofoam out there. So yeah, I don't know if it's this committee's role, but if anybody has ideas about better dock and float rules that we might have, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Claudia, all in
Okay.
favor? Any opposed? Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.